Hey guys, welcome to a video on imaginary numbers. Now, and more specifically, I. Now, before I start the video, I just want to point out how great this pen is. Like, you can just tell by looking at it, that's probably one of the best pens to ever exist. Anyway, back to the video. So, I can be defined as I squared equals -1, or I equals the square root of -1. Now, you're probably saying, well, how can you get the square root of -1 if there's nothing you can't get the square root of -1. That's impossible. And now that's sort of where the name imaginary comes from. Well, it is where the name imaginary comes from, but the name imaginary is kind of misleading. So I'm going to start by showing you the other powers of I. So what is I to the 0 power? Well, if you're taking a basic algebra class, you know that anything to the 0 power is going to be 1. Okay. I to the first power. Well, anything to the first power is going to be equal to itself. Now, I know I to the first power is equal to -1, but for this, I'm just going to say that's going to be equal to I. You'll see later. Well, I guess you will see later. So anyway, I squared. Now, I squared, as it says up here, I squared is -1. And I to the third power, this is sort of where we're going to have to start, using maths. So, I to the third power is going to be equal to I squared, which is -1, times I. So, I squared, I squared times I, which is going to be equal to -1 times I, which is just going to be equal to negative I, as you can see there. And what is, I know my hand is covering this, but you can see after it. Anyway, so then, just my page. I to the fourth power. I to the fourth power, well, that's going to be I to the third power times I. So, I'm sorry if I'm shaking it, it's just like, I kind of need to hold this with my hands. So, I to the third power times I, which is then going to be equal to, so I to the third power is minus I times I. Now, minus I times I is just going to be minus I squared. So this is going to be minus I squared. And, minus I squared. So I squared, if I squared is -1, then minus I squared must be 1. Now, when I first recorded, I didn't show the rest of these powers. I only went up to 4. I only went up to 4. And I think I need to go past 4 to show you the pattern, because there's a pattern. So, what is I to the 5th? So, I to the 5th is going to be, I to the 4th times I, which that is going to be equal to I to the 4th times I. I to the 4th times I is going to be 1. No, I to the 4th is going to be 1 times I, so 1 times I. And this is just going to be equal to I. Now, I to the 6th, which I to the 6th is going to be equal to I times I. And this is just going to be equal to I to the 2, and we all know that I to the 2 is going to be equal to -1. I to the 7th, and we're almost, and you might be picking up on the pattern. I'm not sure if you're not. I'm not sure if you are, but if you take a look, you might see it merging. So I to the 7, that's going to be I to the 6 times I, which is just going to be equal to, so I to the 6 is -1, So negative 1 times I, which is going to be equal to negative I. Good stuff. I to the 8th is going to be I to the 7th times I. And I to the 7th is just... hang on, no, this should be... and I forgot to put the dot on it, so it looks like a 1. I'm just going to put the dot there. So I to the 7th is negative I. So it's going to be negative I times I. And, this is just going to be equal to negative I squared. So negative I squared. And, I squared is going to be equal to negative 1. So negative I squared is going to be equal to 1. I got rid of all the calculations. I'm just going to move the microphone a bit away from my face because it's kind of making this sound. So I got rid of all the calculations we were doing a second ago, just so I can show you the pattern. So the pattern goes I, negative 1, negative I. No. I, negative 1, negative I, 1. That's the pattern. And, as we can see, I to the 1 is going to be I to the power 2, negative 1, I to the 3, negative I, and I to the 4, 1. And, the pattern just continues. And the one thing we need to take note of is that every multiple of 4 we will get a 1. So, as we see here, every multiple of 4 we're going to get 1. So let's just say I to the 40th power. Since it's a multiple of 4, and since, the pattern repeats on like this, it's 1, I, negative 1, negative I. And the pattern continues. It's a pattern. So every multiple of 4 is going to be, there's going to be a 1. So I to the 40th power is going to be 1 because, 40 is a multiple of 4. 1 there. Just do that. Cool. Like that. But what if we get a number that isn't a multiple of 4, like 42? Okay, I kind of, wrote it with a 0. Just gonna cross those out. I to the 42. There. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Anyway, so I to the 42, it's just gonna be equal to I to the 40th times I to the 2. See, if you know how to do exponents. See, this is just going to be equal to I to the 42. That's pretty simple. Anyway, so we know what I to the 40th is. It's, since it's a multiple of 4, like we set up here, since it's a multiple of 4, it's going to have to be equal to 1. So this is going to be equal to I times I to the 2. And I to the 2 is just, negative 1. So then we'll get I to the 42 is equal... I to the 42 is equal to negative 1. Now I'm going to have to provide commentary for this part of the video because the audio cut out and I couldn't be bothered recording it again. So I'm zooming in. So let's get the square root. Just need to turn on my pen. The square root of negative 9. Square root of negative 9. Now, before you were taught that this is impossible, but now that I showed you you might think that there's a way. So this is going to be equal to, what am I doing? This is going to be equal to the square root of 9 times negative 1. If you've done like a basic maths class, you should know this. Anyway. And this is then going to be equal to the square root of 9 times the square root of negative 1. And the square root of negative 1, as you should know by now, is I. So then we get the square root of 9 times I. just need to... Sorry if there's background noises. And then this, you know, if you've done basic arithmetic, basically, 3 times I. And that is how we get the square root of -9.